And we will hop right into it.
Okay.
Actually, right on time. Oh no, we're 2 minutes late. Damn it.
We
Thought we
tried.
were on time.
We tried. We tried.
How is everyone? Kayla, no worries.
It happens. I have to work like all the time, I feel like, so.
Just glad you could drop in. Same. I mean, you definitely have to work more than I do, but still.
I mean, we work the same amount of hours for the most part.
Yours are just weird.
Yeah, mine are just weird right now. That's all.
Either way.
Either way.
We get to read a chapter of Harry Potter today.
We do get to read a chapter of Harry Potter today. We're going to do that.
Harry Potter.
Oh, Harry Potter.
Not to mention one of my favorite characters, Arthur Weasley, starring in this chapter.
So, we decided that we were going to do another, read through for this live stream. And when we were trying to decide which chapter to read, I kind of went through based off of the comments, and we had quite a few comments that said that they really enjoy the chapter where Mr. Weasley bursts through the Dursleys' fireplace.
And I feel like our last live stream, when we read that chapter, it was a heavy chapter. There was a lot in that, like, a lot of themes and different heavy things that just fill out the story. This is really just a kind of fun chapter. For the most part.
Yeah, other people's favorite chapters were like very heavy chapters, like King's Cross, The Forest Again, The Lost Prophecy, some very heavy chapters, which we will definitely read, but we just felt like this time, let's just read something kind of fun.
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
No, it's
I almost
okay.
punched you in the face there. I wasn't expecting you to bend over.
I dropped my sock.
That would have been great, captured on camera, just straight up. Boom.
No. Oh, sorry. Everything's itchy.
Hey, Katie, how's it going?
Oh, hello, Katie. Welcome. Glad you could make it.
Surprised to see you. I figured it would be way too late today.
Oh, my God.
Are you just powering through because, Harry Potter? Not to mention the Weasleys. It's not just Harry Potter. The Weasleys.
Oh, Harry Potter. All right, I'm hoping that satisfies the gods enough.
Would you have an itch?
The worst itch imaginable.
Oh, I was wondering what you were doing.
Oh, so itchy. So itchy. The worst itch imaginable.
Hey, Melanie. Well, I'm glad you could join us while you're still at work.
Oh.
All right. Well, we won't waste any more time.
Okay.
I mean, was there anything you wanted to say preemptively, or should we, get into it and then we can discuss?
No, that was pretty much it. Just the decision of why we picked the chapter we picked. That was about it. Ooh.
And what is Harry Potter without Jackson?
Magnificent
That
Orange.
He knows J Action is here.
Are you ready, sir?
You may be a Harry Potter fan, but you will never be a J Action levels of Harry Potter fan.
He really is ready, isn't he? I am reading from the illustrated edition today, because we took some notes. I do have some questions about the illustrated edition, though. I just noticed there's a banner here with 3 cups on it. It's probably like a Triwizard thing, but also the 3 of Cups and Tarot. I wonder if there's a meaning there.
Maybe you should do the review video for this one. Like a more detailed review video.
Right, Tarot. Yeah, I was thinking Tarot. Right on the front cover, there's a banner that has 3 cups on it.
Because you would know more about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to get some more coffee, but, I can't disturb him now.
Real quick,
He's settled in.
In other news, our snake pooped and shed, and I am very excited about it.
Save that news for a Nagini chapter.
Okay. It was very exciting, though.
We can talk about, taking care of snakes when we read, like, what's that chapter where Voldemort has Wormtail milk Nagini? That we can...
The Riddle House.
Yeah.
First chapter of this book. That does offer the question, who cleans up Nagini's poops?
Wormtail, obviously. But okay, let's hop into this.
All right. So, basically, the chapter is gonna... In other news, you got a kangaroo? I wish.
No. No.
In other... I wish. In other words, basically, the chapter is opening up with them all waiting for the Weasleys to come and pick up Harry.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Hi, Pam.
Okay, we said ready to go like 4 times. I think we need to start.
Okay. Chapter 4. Back to the Burrow. By 12 o'clock next day, Harry's trunk was packed with his school things and all his most prized possessions. The invisibility cloak he'd inherited from his father, the broomstick he had gotten from Sirius, the enchanted map of Hogwarts he'd been given by Fred and George Weasley last year. He had emptied his hiding place under the loose floorboard of all food, double-checked every nook and cranny of his bedroom for forgotten spellbooks or quills, and taken down the chart on the wall counting the days to September the 1st, on which he liked to cross off the days remaining until his return to Hogwarts. The atmosphere inside number 4 Privet Drive was extremely tense. The imminent arrival at their house of an assortment of wizards was making the Dursleys uptight and irritable. Uncle Vernon had looked downright alarmed when Harry informed him that the Weasleys would be arriving at 5 o'clock the very next day. "I hope you told them to dress properly, these people," he snarled at once. "I've seen the sort of stuff you lot wear. They'd better have the decency to put on normal clothes, that's all." Harry felt a slight sense of foreboding. He had rarely seen Mr. and Mrs. Weasley wearing anything that the Dursleys would call normal. Their children might don Muggle clothing during the holidays, but Mr. and Mrs. Weasley usually wore long robes and varying states of shabbiness. Harry wasn't bothered about what the neighbours would think, but he was anxious about how rude the Dursleys might be to the Weasleys if they turned up looking like their worst idea of wizards. Uncle Vernon had put on his best suit. To some people this might have looked like a gesture of welcome, but Harry knew it was because Uncle Vernon wanted to look impressive and intimidating. Dudley, on the other hand, looked somehow diminished. This was not because the diet was at last taking effect, but due to fright. Dudley had emerged from his last encounter with a fully grown wizard with a curly pig's tail poking out from the seat of his trousers, and Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon had had to pay for its removal at a private hospital in London. It wasn't altogether surprising, therefore, that Dudley kept running his hand nervously over his backside and walking sideways from room to room so as not to present the same target to the enemy.
I forgot about that part. That's just great. And the fact that right after this, his second encounter with wizards leads to a giant tongue.
Well, I think this is an interesting... Like, from Harry's perspective, he's like, they're going to be really rude, they're going to be really awful. From Dudley's perspective, this is legit terrifying. Every encounter he's had has been horrible.
It really... Well, he's only had one.
Well, and it was bad. He had to have surgery.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's the best part. The fact that Hagrid didn't even fix it afterwards. He just left it. Like, well, my work here is done.
I don't know if Hagrid knew how to fix it.
Nope, that spell only goes one way. Good luck.
To a certain degree, like, I can't blame Dudley for feeling the way he does. And for being so scared.
No, I totally feel like this is the one chapter I'm like kind of on the Dursley side. They have every right to be angry with the Weasleys for everything that happens.
And upset. I mean, they
It
went...
wasn't really the Weasleys' fault, mind you, but Dudley does, yeah, he kind of does deserve it. For everything that's happened to Harry and everything Dudley has done, he definitely deserves it. But it's still terrifying.
Part of me does kind of like feel bad for Dudley. Like, this is awful.
I don't feel bad for Dudley necessarily, but like the Dursleys as a whole. Just like, you know, your whole wall got blown out, your fireplace. Your son's growing a tongue. Is he gonna, you know, asphyxiate? Is what's going to happen?
Right.
And also, hi, Dan. I think we started just as you joined in. And sorry to hear that you're soaked in the rain. I'm hoping it was a warm rain.
How painful do you think that pig's tail was?
I don't think it hurt.
He had to sit on it for however long until they got to the private hospital, because they couldn't go to a public hospital. They had to go to a private hospital.
Maybe they're a little bit more hush-hush. Not so much gossiping.
Just every time the Dursleys encounter magic, it doesn't go good.
Yeah.
It goes badly. And then you wonder why they act the way they do about it. Well, because every time...
Well, no. They acted like that long before anything happened.
Well, the last time they encounter magic, prior to us meeting Harry, is their last encounter with magic is, oh, by the way, your sister's dead because the evil magic man killed her. Here's her child. That's not good. That's not a good encounter with magic.
No.
No,
Fair enough.
no.
But I don't know how to... It's not the same, though. It's not. The Dursleys get for boarding up their... Exactly. How dare they? Leave your fireplace open, people.
I think Katie's right. I think the electric fireplace was like a very 90s thing.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
My grandma has one. She could either have her, like... She could either get her chimney redone, because I guess, like, her chimney needed to be redone, like, an insert or something, or she could get an electric fireplace. So she was like,
I'll do
electrify
that.
me.
It's probably cheaper.
Also, hello, Angela, and hello, Cherry Cat. How is everyone? Hi, Ren. Everyone's joining at the same time.
I also just love that statement. Walking sideways from room to room so as not to present the same target to the enemy. Lunch was an almost silent meal. Dudley didn't even protest at the food. Cottage cheese and grated celery. Aunt Petunia wasn't eating anything at all. Her arms were folded, her lips were pursed, and she seemed to be chewing her tongue, as though biting back the furious diatribe she longed to throw at Harry. "They'll be driving, of course," Uncle Vernon barked across the table. Said Harry. He hadn't thought about that. How were the Weasleys going to pick him up? They didn't have a car anymore. The old Ford Anglia they'd once owned was currently running wild in the Forbidden Forest at Hogwarts, but Mr. Weasley had borrowed a Ministry of Magic car last year. Possibly he would do the same today. "I think so," said Harry. Uncle Vernon snorted into his moustache. Normally Uncle Vernon would have asked what car Mr. Weasley drove. He tended to judge other men on how big and expensive their cars were, but Harry doubted whether Uncle Vernon would have taken to Mr. Weasley, even if he drove a Ferrari. Harry spent most of the afternoon in his bedroom. He couldn't stand watching Aunt Petunia peer out through the net curtains every few seconds, as though there'd been a warning about an escaped rhinoceros. Finally, at 4:45, Harry went back downstairs into the living room. Aunt Petunia was compulsively straightening cushions. Uncle Vernon was pretending to read the paper, but his tiny eyes were not moving, and Harry was sure he was really listening with all his might for the sound of an approaching car. Dudley was crammed into an armchair, his porky hands beneath him, clamped firmly round his bottom. Harry couldn't take the tension. He left the room and went and sat on the stairs in the hall, his eyes on his watch and his heart pumping fast from excitement and nerves. But 5 o'clock came and then went. Uncle Vernon, perspiring slightly in his suit, opened the front door, peered up and down the street, then withdrew his head quickly. "They're late!" he snarled at Harry. "I know," said Harry. "Maybe, the traffic's bad or something." You know what I noticed?
What?
We've had 2 mentions of 2 incidents in previous books. So, we've got the pigtail in the first book.
Yeah.
And then we just talked about the Ford Anglia. That's a second book thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to get a little mention of the third book in here somewhere.
What happens between, like, what would... I guess the map. Doesn't he get the map in the third one?
Yeah, he talks about the map and the broom at the very beginning of the chapter.
So we got that in Prisoner of Azkaban. So there we go.
Hi, Vane. Vernon didn't know. He only caught snippets of the conversations, and I don't think he overheard that anyone was dead. Vernon only wondered what was up. Oh, Angela says hello to Action J.
Yes, hello. Oh, he's embarrassed now. He's shy.
If he doesn't present his backside, his front will get cursed instead.
And that's exactly what happens.
Pretty much.
So.
Yeah, that's true. 5:10. Then 5:15. Harry was starting to feel anxious himself now. At 5:30, he heard Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia conversing in terse mutters in the living room. "No consideration at all. We might have had an engagement. Maybe they think they'll get invited to dinner if they're late." "Well, they most certainly won't be," said Uncle Vernon, and Harry heard him stand up and start pacing the living room. "They'll take the boy and go. There'll be no hanging around. That's if they're coming at all. Probably mistaken the day. I dare say their kind don't set much store by punctuality. Either that or they drive some tin-pot car that's broken down. Ah!" Harry jumped up. From the other side of the living room door came the sounds of the 3 Dursleys scrambling, panic-stricken, across the room. Next moment, Dudley came flying into the hall, looking terrified. "What happened?" said Harry. "What's the matter?" But Dudley didn't seem able to speak. Hands still clamped over his buttocks, he waddled as fast as he could into the kitchen. Harry hurried into the living room. Loud bangings and scrapings were coming from behind the Dursleys' boarded-up fireplace, which had a fake coal fire plugged in front of it. "What is it?" gasped Aunt Petunia, who'd backed into the wall and was staring, terrified, towards the fire. "What is it, Vernon?" But they were left in doubt barely a second longer. Voices could be heard from inside the block fireplace. "Ouch! Fred, no. Go back. There's been some kind of mistake. Tell George not... George, no. There's no room. Go back quickly and tell Ron... Maybe Harry can hear us, Dad. Maybe he'll be able to get us out." There was a loud hammering of fists on the boards behind the electric fire. Harry, can you hear us?" The Dursleys rounded on Harry like a pair of angry wolverines. "What is this?" growled Uncle Vernon. "What's going on?" They've tried to get here by flue powder," said Harry, fighting a mad desire to laugh. "They can travel by fire. Only you've blocked the fireplace. Hang on." He approached the fireplace and called through the boards. "Mr. Weasley? Can you hear me?" The hammering stopped. Somebody inside the chimney piece said, "Shh! Mr. Weasley, it's Harry. The fireplace has been blocked up. You won't be able to get through here." "Damn," said Mr. Weasley's voice. What on earth did they want to block up the fireplace for? They've got an electric fire, Harry explained. Really? Said Mr. Weasley's voice excitedly. Eclectic, you say? With a plug? Gracious. Oh, I must see that. Let's think. Out, Ron! Ron's voice now joined the others. What are we doing here? Has something gone wrong? Oh, no, Ron, came Fred's voice very sarcastically. No, this is exactly where we wanted to end up. Yeah, we're having the time of our lives here, said George, whose voice sounded muffled as though he were squashed against the wall. Boys, said Mr. Weasley vaguely. I'm trying to think what to do. Yes. Only way. Stand back, Harry. Harry retreated to the sofa. Uncle Vernon, however, moved forwards. Wait 1 moment, he bellowed at the fire. What exactly are you going to... Bang. The electric fire shot across the room as the boarded-up fireplace bursted outwards, expelling Mr. Weasley, Fred, George, and Ron in a cloud of rubble and loose chippings. Aunt Petunia shrieked and fell backwards over the coffee table. Uncle Vernon caught her before she hit the floor and gaped, speechless at the Weasleys, all of whom had bright red hair, including Fred and George, who are identical to the last freckle. That's better, panted Mr. Weasley, brushing dust from his long green robes and straightening his glasses. Ah, you must be Harry's aunt and uncle. Tall, thin and balding, he moved towards Uncle Vernon, his hand outstretched, but Uncle Vernon backed away several paces, dragging Aunt Petunia. Words utterly failed Uncle Vernon. His best suit was covered in white dust, which had settled in his hair and moustache and made him look as though he'd just aged 30 years. Yes. Sorry about that, said Mr. Weasley, lowering his hand and looking over his shoulder at the blasted fireplace. It's all my fault. It just didn't occur to me that we wouldn't be able to get out the other end. I had your fireplace connected to the Flume network, you see, just for an afternoon, you know, so we could get Harry. Muggle fireplaces aren't supposed to be connected, strictly speaking, but I've got a useful contact at the Flu regulation panel, and he fixed it for me. I can put it right in a jiffy, though, don't worry. I'll light a fire to send the boys back, and then I can repair your fireplace before I disapparate. Oh my god.
He's got to get all the loves right now.
I see that. Oh my goodness.
He's Miss Harry Potter.
I see that.
Oh yeah, I definitely wish we could have had this in the movie. It would have been great.
I enjoy doing Uncle Vernon's voice. It's fun.
And yes, this cat is such a love. He wants all the feels.
I see that. I also just want to point out that Mr. Weasley had this all set up. Like, Mr. Weasley is constantly mocked for being low ranking at the ministry and has a crappy job and this and that. But he's always got these connections and all these people that he knows who do these things for him and fix this for him and do that for him. And
it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Who you know. Mr. Weasley might just be the head of misuse of Muggle artifacts. No one cares about it, but he knows everybody.
He's like the guy off of Pawn Stars. Hold on, I got a friend who knows about this.
Right?
Always got someone he can
Always got somebody he can talk to. Beans, beans, beans. Beans, beans, beans. Beans, beans, beans. Little beans, little beans, little beans. We got little beans, little
100%
beans.
Melanie. If you're doing something else, they can't have that. Especially when I'm like working on my laptop. Any and every one of our cats, well, they'll take turns to just come up and lay down on my keyboard.
I don't know why I'm so thirsty. I am so thirsty.
A lot of reading?
Harry was ready to bet that the Dursleys hadn't understood a single word of this. They were still gaping at Mr. Weasley, thunderstruck. Aunt Petunia staggered upright again and hid behind Uncle Vernon. "Hello, Harry," said Mr. Weasley brightly. "Got your trunk ready?" "It's upstairs," said Harry, grinning back. "We'll get it," said Fred at once. Winking at Harry, he and George left the room. They knew where Harry's bedroom was, having once rescued him from it in the dead of night. Harry suspected that Fred and George were hoping for a glimpse of Dudley. They'd heard a lot about him from Harry. "Well," said Mr. Weasley, swinging his arm slightly, while he tried to find words to break the very nasty silence. "Very, nice place you've got here." As the usual spotless living room was now covered in dust and bits of brick, this remark didn't go down too well with the Dursleys. Uncle Vernon's face purpled once more, and Aunt Petunia started chewing her tongue again. However, they seemed too scared to actually say anything. Mr. Weasley was looking around. He loved everything to do with Muggles. Harry could see him itching to go and examine the television and the video recorder. "They run off of electricity, do they?" he said knowledgeably. "Ah, yes, I can see the plugs. I collect plugs," he added to Uncle Vernon, "and batteries. Got a very large collection of batteries. My wife thinks I'm mad, but there you are." Uncle Vernon clearly thought Mr. Weasley was mad too. He moved ever so slightly to the right, screening Aunt Petunia from view, as though he thought Mr. Weasley might suddenly run at them and attack. Dudley suddenly reappeared in the room. Harry could hear the clunk of his trunk on the stairs and knew that the sounds had scared Dudley out of the kitchen. Dudley edged along the wall, gazing at Mr. Weasley with terrified eyes, and attempted to conceal himself behind his mother and father. Unfortunately, Uncle Vernon's bulk, while sufficient to hide bony Aunt Petunia, was nowhere near enough to conceal Dudley. "Oh, is this your cousin, is it, Harry?" said Mr. Weasley, taking another brave stab at making conversation. "Yep," said Harry. "That's Dudley." He and Ron exchanged glances and then quickly looked away from each other. The temptation to burst out laughing was almost overwhelming. Dudley was still clutching his bottom as though afraid it might fall off. Mr. Weasley, however, seemed genuinely concerned at Dudley's peculiar behaviour. Indeed, from the tone of his voice when he next spoke, Harry was quite sure that Mr. Weasley thought Dudley was quite as mad as the Dursleys thought he was, except that Mr. Weasley felt sympathy rather than fear. "Having a good holiday, Dudley?" he said kindly. Dudley whimpered. Harry saw his hands tighten still harder over his massive backside. He can't let it go with his butt.
No.
Um,
How do you think that therapy session would go?
I'm traumatized
You know,
about my bottom.
this big man showed up late at night. It was dark.
Violated my butt.
He made me feel like an animal. None of our cats bite the pen, but J Action here will come up and like rub on the pen so that whatever you're writing gets all screwed up, messy. Always worries me too when he does it because I'm afraid I'm gonna like poke him in the eye or something.
He wants to.
Yeah, he really gets you. He gives me like little love bites, but he really just gnaws at.
He wants to eat my nails, I think. It's my fingernails. He wants to eat them. I also think it's worth noting that Vernon is, think what you want about him, but he is doing everything in his power right now to protect his family.
Mm.
As messed up as that is, like, he's guarding Petunia. He's doing everything he can to, like, try to protect her.
Right. Like, he thinks he's doing the right thing. Even if it is misguided.
Right? He's showing that kind of
Protector mentality.
Yeah, to protect his family.
I also think it's kind of rude that Mr. Weasley hooked up the Dursleys' house to the flu network without, at the very least, letting Harry know.
Right? So then Harry could at least say, by the way, this is happening. They're going to come out of the fireplace. Just FYI.
Vernon, I know you got drills. Crack them out. We're taking out that fireplace.
Like, Vernon is actually being a good dad
Yeah.
and husband. It's kind of weird to think about in this.
This is like the one chapter where I'm like on the fence, where I'm just kind of like, like, kind of on their side on it a little bit.
I'm just.
If like all this went down in our house, like, yeah, what are you doing? My wall, my
Right.
fireplace.
You've destroyed it. You know what, Melanie? That's probably true. Arthur probably just made the assumption.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Yeah, it's probably just the thing, You was just thinking like, oh well, all wizards. It's like knocking on the front door.
but he also knows that he lives with muggles. So, but at the same time, Arthur,
Doesn't always think things through.
well, Arthur also, it's very clear, doesn't is making an assumption about the relationship that Harry has with the Dursleys. Like, he does this thing with the fireplace, not thinking that it would be blocked up, not thinking that they shun Harry, thinking that they probably know more about this stuff than most muggles do,
Yeah.
and they're totally clueless. I think there's a lot of things that Arthur assumes
Yeah.
that are not true.
Another thing I kind of noticed in this chapter is that Vernon is, just trying to protect his family and stuff, and
Yeah.
even Vernon was just kind of like, well, maybe they're just running a little late, but Petunia's over there just like gaslighting him, like setting it up.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
she was vehement about it. He's like, they could be running a little late. She's like, well, they're not staying for dinner if they show up. Like,
I
she's...
almost think that if Vernon ended up with someone else, he would probably be a lot cooler with the whole wizardry thing. It's Petunia. She's the bad apple here.
I mean, she is a pretty bad app. She's been just traumatized and poisoned by the wizarding world, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think she can get over.
Just now that we're going through this, I felt like Vernon was just kind of being understanding and, just like, oh, these things happen.
Right.
Petunia was like, no, they don't. They're planning to come in here and murder us all, Vernon.
I mean...
Yeah, 100%. It's all Petunia.
Well, because Vernon wouldn't know anything about magic unless she said whatever she told him is all he knows.
I just meant if something else, if someone who wasn't Petunia, and all
Right.
this happened,
Right.
but they didn't hate.
Yeah, no, I'm
they
not.
weren't vindictive towards their sister and
Yeah,
hate
I'm not.
magic.
I'm just disagreeing with you. Everyone's agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, all that Vernon knows about magic is whatever she's told him. So she has clearly warped his mind about it because he's got no one else to tell him otherwise.
Yeah.
And then when he actually has experiences with magic, they're not good.
It's true too.
So, kind of backs her up a little bit.
There's a JKR short story or piece of info about a dinner date gone wrong with Vernon, Petunia, James, and Lily. Oh, that would be fantastic.
All right,
I
love
would
to
love
read
that,
that.
yeah.
Love to read that. Shall I keep going?
Yeah.
Here we go. Fred and George came back into the room carrying Harry's school trunk. They glanced round as they entered and spotted Dudley, their faces cracked into identical evil grins. "Ah, right," said Mr. Weasley. "Better get cracking then." Hey, can you... get me more tea?
Yeah.
Maybe another tea bag. Because that's not gonna, Better get cracking then. He pushed up the sleeves of his robes and took out his wand. Harry saw the Dursleys draw back against the wall as one. "Incendio!" said Mr. Weasley, pointing his wand at the hole in the wall behind him. Flames rose at once in the fireplace, crackling merrily as though they'd been burning for hours. Mr. Weasley took a small drawstring bag from his pocket, untied it, took a pinch of the powder inside, and threw it into the flames, which turned emerald green and roared higher than ever. "Off you go, Fred," said Mr. Weasley. "Coming," said Fred. "Oh, no, hang on." A bag of sweets had spilled out of Fred's pocket, and the contents were now rolling in every direction. Big, fat toffees in brightly coloured wrappers. Fred scrambled round, cramming them back into his pocket, then gave the Dursleys a cheery wave, stepped forward and walked right into the fire, yelling, "The Burrow!" Aunt Petunia gave a shuddering gasp. There was a whooshing sound, and Fred vanished. "Right then, George," said Mr. Weasley. "You and the trunk." Harry helped George carry the trunk forward into the flames and turn it on its end so that he could hold it better. Then, with a second whoosh, George had cried, "The Burrow!" and vanished too. "Ron, you next," said Mr. Weasley. "See you," said Ron brightly to the Dursleys. He grinned broadly at Harry, then stepped into the fire, shouted, "The Burrow!" and disappeared. Now Harry and Mr. Weasley alone remained. "Well, bye then," Harry said to the Dursleys. They didn't say anything at all. Harry moved toward the fire, but as he reached the edge of the hearth, Mr. Weasley put out a hand and held him back. He was looking at the Dursleys in amazement. "Harry said goodbye to you," he said. "Didn't you hear him?" "It doesn't matter," Harry muttered to Mr. Weasley. "Honestly, I don't care." Mr. Weasley did not remove his hand from Harry's shoulder. "You aren't going to see your nephew till next summer," he said to Uncle Vernon in mild indignation. "Surely you're going to say goodbye?" Uncle Vernon's face worked furiously. The idea of being taught consideration by a man who'd just blasted away half his living room wall seemed to be causing him immense suffering. But Mr. Weasley's wand was still in his hand, and Uncle Vernon's tiny eyes darted to it once before he said very resentfully, "Goodbye, then." "See you," said Harry, putting one foot forward into the green flames, which felt pleasantly like warm breath. At that moment, however, a horrible gagging sound erupted behind him, and Aunt Petunia started to scream. Harry whirled round. Harry wheeled round. Dudley was no longer standing behind his parents. He was kneeling beside the coffee table, and he was gagging and spluttering on a foot-long purple slimy thing that was protruding from his mouth. One bewildered second later, Harry realised that the foot-long thing was Dudley's tongue, and then a brightly coloured toffee wrapper lay on the floor before him. Aunt Petunia hurled herself onto the ground beside Dudley, seized the end of his swollen tongue, and attempted to wrench it from his mouth. Unsurprisingly, Dudley yelled and spluttered worse than ever, trying to fight her off. Uncle Vernon was bellowing and waving his arms around, and Mr. Weasley had to shout to make himself heard. "Not to worry, I can sort him out," he yelled, advancing on Dudley with his wand outstretched. But Aunt Petunia screamed worse than ever and threw herself on top of Dudley, shielding him from Mr. Weasley. "No, really," said Mr. Weasley desperately. "It's a simple process. It was the toffee. My son Fred. Real practical joker. But it's only an engorgement charm. At least, I think. Please, I can correct it." But far from being reassured, the Dursleys became more panic-stricken. Aunt Petunia was sobbing hysterically, tugging Dudley's tongue as though determined to rip it out. Dudley appeared to be suffocating under the combined pressure of his mother and his tongue, and Uncle Vernon, who'd lost control completely, seized a china figure from on top the sideboard and threw it very hard at Mr. Weasley, who ducked, causing the ornament to shatter in the blasted fireplace. "Now, really," said Mr. Weasley angrily, brandishing his wand. "I'm trying to help." Bellowing like a wounded hippo, Uncle Vernon snatched up another ornament. "Harry, go! Just go!" Mr. Weasley shouted, his wand on Uncle Vernon. "I'll sort this out." Harry didn't want to miss the fun, but Uncle Vernon's second ornament narrowly missed his left ear, and on balance he thought it best to leave the situation to Mr. Weasley. He stepped into the fire, looking over his shoulder as he said, "The Burrow!" His last fleeting glimpse of the living room was of Mr. Weasley blasting a third ornament out of Uncle Vernon's hand with his wand, Aunt Petunia screaming and lying on top of Dudley, and Dudley's tongue lolling about like a great slimy python. But next moment, Harry had begun to spin very fast, and the Dursleys' living room was wiped out of sight in a rush of emerald green flames.
Well, that's one way to jumpstart a diet. Steal candy. Gets the 6-foot tongue.
I love that she uses snake imagery, like a great slimy python. Always look for Rowling to give you some snake imagery. It's always in there, here and there.
Just a big pink amigo.
Purple
Amigo. Oh man, just such a great chapter. I forgot like how much really happens in this chapter because it sets up well for the Weasleys to realize what Harry's home life really is like.
I do like that little moment with Arthur as well, where he's like, Harry said goodbye to you. Aren't you gonna say goodbye? You're not gonna see him. Like,
everyone's just like, guess.
Even Harry's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's like, no, if they say goodbye, then I have to say goodbye. Don't do this to me, Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
The little cupboard on the desk. Oh, this thing right here. It's the God of War collector's edition.
Yeah, that's not a little cupboard. There's a hammer in there. Not a Native American. Sorry.
Nope. Norse mythology. Though we did get little. You're kind of right, because you got these little statues. This is, I believe, Frigg and Freya. Or no, I think this is Loki's mother. I can't remember her name now.
Loki's mom?
Yeah, the frost giant. Can't
All
remember.
I can think of is the frost giant that he marries. The one that's like his wife is the one I can remember. I can't remember his mom's name. Because his wife's name is Angerboda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. That's the only one I can remember.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember. But this is supposed to be Loki's mom, I'm pretty sure.
Anyway, what do you think of Fred's decision to give Dudley that candy?
I'm not against it. He definitely just set Muggle wizard relations back a few years. But like most people, I mean, Dudley did deserve it. He's done a lot. And you know, Fred didn't really do it to him. Dudley had some self-control. That's when it happened.
He'd just gotten done.
He literally just found candy on the floor and popped it in his mouth. Before they could even leave, just random candy. Like, is there just random candy laying around the Dursleys' house at all times?
This is true.
If I find candy on the ground, my first instinct isn't,
Fred even says, "Whoops, my bad." So you know they came out of his pocket.
Yeah, and Dudley's just there. 5-second rule. Grabs as fast as he can, pops it in, apparently.
He's a food addict. Truly is a food addict.
And this is what changes him. After this, he starts
working out and going boxing. Yeah, maybe this is it. Maybe.
He's just afraid to eat candy after this.
Maybe
that's
this
the only
was
reason.
The kick in the butt he needed to get his diet under control. Maybe it wasn't celery and cottage cheese. Maybe it was trauma.
Uh,
People don't usually
magic being
change.
shown to them probably shouldn't be.
People don't change without a significant emotional upheaval. Usually.
That's true. And to go back, because I didn't see your comment before, Dan. Yeah, I think it's just because the Dursleys know about magic. I think as long as it's happening in the house when Harry's there, like, I don't think there's any repercussions. You know, they know about the wizarding world and magic and everything else, so I think the Ministry just kind of looks at it like, oh, okay.
Except in the next book.
Well, we all know that those are bogus charges.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So, yeah. I really like this chapter. It's a big turning point in the book for a lot of people, I think. And you know what? This chapter really has rereading this chapter really has like changed my mind about Vernon.
Yeah?
Yeah, kind of. 'Cause I don't know. I always thought of him as equal with Petunia in like their ignorance and discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Like I figured Vernon would be very discriminating against anyone who wasn't normal.
He kind of is.
He kind of is.
I mean, remember chapter
But
1 of book 1?
yeah.
He's kind of a douche.
But at the same time, as I'm looking back, like, he has this kind of, like, well, those people are weird, but whatever, let them do what they want. And it seems like Petunia is the very active one, like, it's not normal, we need to fix this and do that and this. I just wonder how much of what we see in Vernon now is actually Vernon and not just what Petunia has like hammered into him over the years.
I feel like there's a lot of the element of like the keeping up with the Joneses attitude that they have.
Mm-hmm. But I wonder how much of that is
Him.
like yeah.
How much of that is actually her.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like I'm not justifying anything
no,
Vernon
I'm not
says
saying you
or
are.
does. Everything is wrong, but I'm wondering if he could have been different if he was with any other person, even a wizard or someone who's related to a wizard who isn't Petunia.
Right. I don't know.
Those people in cloaks.
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, he does do that whole thing like Harry just said. He judges everybody based on the kind of car they drive.
Yeah.
Like, he is very judgmental in that way. I think he and Petunia do have some of those basic things in common.
Maybe. Or how much of it was him just like trying to I don't know, like please Petunia in the beginning, you know, where it's like, oh well I think this and he's just like, oh yeah, me too. Totally agree. Totally agree. So second date, right? Yeah. Wanna go on second date? Cool.
And then it just...
And it slowly like snowballed into Vernon just didn't know who he was anymore.
So
you didn't know where Petunia ended and Vernon began.
So what you're saying is we need a Vernon Dursley introspective.
We need an origin story for Vernon Dursley.
Who was Vernon Dursley before
Petunia.
Petunia Evans?
Although I think didn't they like start dating when they were teenagers? So they've been together pretty much forever. So I guess
they've been together for at least as long as
James and Lily.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess Vernon didn't really have a chance to be his own person in any case, but yeah.
Yeah, Petunia was attracted to Vernon because he was just literally the most normal person ever.
Maybe that too. I'm just saying, there's like the chance there.
No, I think
Like he
I think
sees.
Katie's right. He's I think that's why she went for him. He was everything that was the complete and total opposite of anything that could be magical.
Because that's definitely what you want your spouse to say. You're not magical at all.
You're the most
That's why I love
ordinary,
you.
you're the most ordinary normal human being I've ever seen in my life.
Uh, he hates imagination, right?
Yeah, he does. That's what I mean. You listen to that first chapter of the first book where it's like in his head. He doesn't approve of imagination. Very normal, thank you very much. Like
Just
it's a good day at his job when he gets to yell at several people.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. Or maybe that's his rage over Petunia and he's taking it out on his
That's what I mean.
siblings.
He just can't say anything to Petunia, so he's just taking it out on everyone under him. Like, right? Like, shit rolls downhill.
Oh.
I mean, I've definitely had some bosses that acted like that. But either way,
Same, for sure. Where like your boss walks in and you're just like, "Ooh, you had a shitty day at home, didn't you?"
Even if it's a cartoon. I don't know. I was surprised with this chapter. Like, I thought it was just gonna be like what I remembered from this chapter was all like the fun stuff, Dudley and Mr. Weasley.
Miss Eccletricity.
But this chapter actually has me thinking a lot more than I thought it would.
Right?
Like, there are some little things in there. Like,
I'm
I
sorry
don't
I'm
know
like
what
sitting back
is
and
there
reclining
anything.
so much, but I'm so comfortable.
Is there anything you got from this chapter that you don't normally get? Like,
Notice there were a lot of book 2 references in this chapter.
well, what chapter was it? What number chapter?
4.
4?
It's chapter 4.
I mean, we'd be nearing that if we're doing like the full, was it ring composition?
Yeah.
Chapter 4, we'd probably be getting into like book 2 territory with the ring of the book.
Yeah.
Because the whole book mirrors the whole story, right?
Yeah. And the Weasleys come and pick him up in this book, and the Weasleys come and pick him up in 2.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of callbacks to that, which I think is just fun. Talking about the
Fort Anglia.
the Ford Anglia.
Could have picked him up in a car, but Harry and Ron ruined that.
Yeah, they did. Almost got Arthur fired. Could have gotten Arthur fired for that. The reference to Fred and George knowing where his bedroom is because they picked him up.
Yeah.
Oh, another bad situation with magic and the Dursleys in book 3. Harry blows up Aunt Marge.
Yeah.
On accident. It's total accident, but he blows her up and she just floats away. Like,
someone said that in the chat. I think it was Melanie.
oh, mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People tend to punch down. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a
they
more
definitely
PG
do.
way of putting it. Yeah.
They definitely do.
My boss is mad at me, so now I'm mad at you, underlings.
Yep. It's terrible. I don't know. Anytime we do any of these rereads, I'm going to keep an eye out for any kind of snake imagery or snake references. Just because they're fun. And she uses snakes a lot. And I think if we pay attention, I think we'll see more of them.
I'm pretty sure there's like a snake in every book. Isn't there?
What do you mean a snake?
Pretty sure.
Like an actual snake?
Yeah. Or Nagini. Counting Nagini and snakes.
Well, book 1 you had the boa.
Yep.
Book 2 you had the basilisk.
Yeah.
Book 3.
I have to think about that one. It's probably some imagery somewhere.
I mean, I'm sure there's imagery. I'm sure there's
some description of snake.
There's some stuff, yeah.
Because then
descriptions, I'm sure, somewhere.
This we have the Riddle House, Nagini.
And then Nagini shows.
And then Order of the Phoenix is when Nagini bites Arthur, right?
Yep. And then there's snakes everywhere in book 6. We see the snakes that the Gaunts hang up.
Yeah.
And then 7 we get Nagini again.
So yeah, it's just book 3. Might have to skim through that and see.
But I'm sure there's like lots of snake descriptions of things that aren't snakes.
Yeah.
That she just sprinkles in everywhere.
I don't know, I just realized like every book has a snake in it, but now I'm like 3, yeah.
3
has a lot of snake stuff.
But
the
3
shack and the stuff, yeah.
But 3 is also the one book where Voldemort doesn't make an appearance either.
Chosen Knight will thank you. Glad you enjoy the streams.
Right? So maybe that's...
Snake on the Gaunt's door.
Maybe that's purposeful. Because book 3 is the only book where Voldemort doesn't show up.
Yeah, that's it. You're right. That's what I meant. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Why not? Book 3 is all about dogs. Not snakes.
That's right.
Just good boys. And moon howlers.
And moon howlers?
Yeah.
What?
Werewolves.
Oh, Zootopia reference. Okay. Forgot about that.
And cats.
Is there not a Trelawney mention of snakes? I'm pretty sure she just mentions, like, whatever it called.
The Grim.
The Grim.
Like, every time.
Which is like a big black dog. Maybe she mentions snake.
Hi, Bobbas.
I don't know.
Itty bitty Bobbas.
Yeah, that's something I'll go back and kind of skim through and say for sure. Next live stream. So now I'm interested.
Yeah, there's a lot more to discuss in this chapter than you think there is. And then you actually start reading it and you start thinking about things and you're like, hey, the Dursleys aren't just face value. There's some deeper shit going on with these muggle assholes.
I wonder if Arthur does it say if Arthur fixed the tongue or did they like kick him out? Yeah, no, he does.
Yeah, because he yells at Fred for it. He like yells at them when he gets back and tells them that they're setting muggle wizard relations back so far because of that crap and basically ruining Arthur's life work.
Yeah.
Like, the one man who wants to be friends with the muggles and have things be great with the muggles, his son poisons one. Like,
in his defense, they're not muggles he wants to be friends with.
That's true.
Although they have an electric fireplace. I mean, that is interesting.
Eclectricity. I love how he calls it eclectricity, and he's like,
magic. Even after he hears Harry say it like 10 times,
he still can't say it right. I know, he still mispronounces it.
It's an electric stove. Oh, an electricity, or whatever he says. Electricity stove. Yep.
And then he thinks he's relating to them because he's like, I collect plugs and batteries. Like, I have a collection in my garage. Okay. That's
I have
great.
batteries and plugs. I'm a bit of an electrician myself.
I'm a bit of an eclectrician myself. Oh, Arthur. Arthur.
This is why I would love for like this to be set in America, though, because they're talking about how Vernon Dursley just wants like the biggest, best car or whatever.
Yeah.
I can totally picture him with like a mullet, goatee, and like big lifted truck.
Huge lifted truck.
Yeah.
And just
All right, he probably wouldn't have a mullet. That's not exactly.
would
normal,
Petunia have
but
like the really big?
he would have the goatee, the very slick back cut hair.
They'd have one of those typical development houses.
Yeah.
And Petunia's hair would be like this big.
Yeah.
Like ultimate Karen hair.
Yeah.
They'd be super Christian, wouldn't they?
We're not getting into religion.
They would be super Christians. They'd be those people.
They wouldn't be about wizardry, that's for sure.
Yeah, they'd be like, that's Satan. Harry, you're going to hell.
We're not getting into this. Drives a Hummer or Cadillac. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a Cadillac. Like when Vernon was describing the cars, I just pictured like a Cadillac DeVille. Like I could picture him driving that.
See, I could see him driving like a Suburban. Or an Escalade.
Vernon in an Escalade. My God.
A super luxury edition Escalade.
I mean, you know, we're making fun of those cars, but they're nice cars.
They're nice. They're very nice. I make fun of them all day, but they nice. They just cost $100 to drive 10 feet. Yes, Melanie, that's exactly what I meant. Not. Those are fake Christians to me. Those people are fake Christians. Real Christians, are loving and tolerant people. They're not, like the ones we see on the news all the time.
Oh, Katie, I 100% agree. There's actually a great episode of Grand Tour with Jeremy Clarkson and everyone. And they take these big American muscle cars
So when they go
and
to
they try to drive
Edinburgh?
around.
Don't they go to Scotland?
Yeah, I think so.
It's Edinburgh, right?
It was the UK, Scotland, somewhere. And, like, they couldn't make a right turn anywhere.
Yeah, the car.
I had to, like, turn back up a little bit, you know, wiggle it down every time.
They were trying to drive down, like, these cobble streets, I think.
Yeah.
In their big American-made vehicles, and they just kept getting stuck.
So,
I mean,
that was a great chapter.
It was.
Now, does anyone have any suggestions on what the next chapter should be? Hello, Jennifer.
Yeah. Who has suggestions for the next chapter that we should read?
I mean,
And
we can go
dissect.
We can go all in for like true imagery deep dive and just go straight to the forest again.
We could.
Or not the forest again. The King Cross Station.
King's Cross.
Yeah.
When he talks to Dumbledore.
Yeah. I think that might be the heaviest.
Oh,
of
Melanie
all.
thinks we should read a Christmas chapter.
Christmas. We could do that. I guess the question is, which Christmas chapter? The Yule Ball, maybe? Yule Ball's pretty
Katie
good.
votes Christmas Book 3. Christmas Book 3 is good.
Which is that the one?
That's
where
the one where they go to dinner, and Harry and Ron go to dinner with
and
all
Dumbledore
the teachers.
has the hat on.
Yeah. Dumbledore trolls Snape hard. Trelawney is pretty good at this. She's like, "Where's Professor Lupin?"
Christmas on the closed ward. Oh man, that's a heavy one.
Yeah, that one's sad.
That's not very Christmassy.
I mean, it is, but in a sad way. Poor Neville.
Have to go. Let's do that after we set up our Christmas tree, so I can walk in the other room and it can be bright and happy at least. Get me off of sad Christmas.
Sometime this month, I'd like you to read the chapter where Voldemort has a memory of Halloween, which happens on Christmas Day, 1997 in Deathly Hallows.
Oh, which chapter is that?
She's talking about... She's talking about the group of chapters when Harry and Hermione go to Godric's Hollow, and like Voldemort has like the flashback of him going to the house and
it was like a random Muggle family, right?
No, it's in Bathilda Bagshot's house. Voldemort has a flashback of him killing Lily and James. But Harry sees it. Like, Harry
I'm thinking there was one where he, like, goes into some random person's house.
No.
And just, like, kills them.
No. This is, like,
But, okay, I know what you mean now.
It's the Bathilda Bagshot chapter.
Bathilda's Secret?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I think so. Which is super creepy. I mean, I'm down to read that. I'm down to read that one. That is, like, the Christmas chapter. The Christmas chapter in Deathly Hallows is sad.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the way we want to go, we can go heavy. We'll save some of the more cheerful ones for closer to Christmas.
Just because, like, it's Christmas, you see all the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody having a good time and all the noises of everyone celebrating Christmas. And
you have that imagery because they walk past the church and the stained glass and how it's all glowing and colorful.
And warm.
And, like, when they walk out after that, it's all, like, they turn the lights out and it's dim and everything's
just... You have all these people so happy. And then Harry standing over his parents' graves, like, wishing he could be there with them. Like, oh.
Yeah.
It's a very sad Christmas time for Harry Potter.
I mean, that's fine. I think if we're going to do that, we should do it next live stream. Because like I said, I'd like to do a more cheerful Christmas chapter when we get closer to Christmas.
I mean, it's up to them what Christmas chapter they'd like to do next. I'm down to read either one.
Well, it doesn't have to be a Christmas chapter, too. Just throw that
That's
out
true. If anybody has another chapter...
It would definitely, fit.
That they'd like to suggest, we could read something totally different.
Was there any ones that you would like? Because, I mean, I said the King's Cross.
I'd read the King's Cross chapter all day. I'd read The Forest Again all day. The House of Gaunt. The Cave. Oh, what a creepy chapter. The Cave.
The Cave's a good one.
The Yule Ball.
Yep, the Yule Ball. 'Cause I can't remember everything that happened. I remember they catch Snape and Karkov, like, talking in the gardens.
Blasting apart students making out.
Yeah.
They overhear
I remember
Hagrid and
the Hermione thing. I don't remember what else happened.
The Hagrid thing. They overhear Hagrid talking to Madame Maxime.
That's right.
Harry overhears Dumbledore talking about finding the Room of Requirement.
Oh, yeah.
Except you don't know it yet, but then in the next book you're like, oh, it's that bathroom Dumbledore was talking about in the last book. He's like, I haven't been able to find it since.
Will and Won't. Will and Won't's a great chapter.
Will and Won't is a great chapter. Creature's Tale is another one I really like. God, why are all my favorite chapters depressing? The Madame Puttyfoot's chapter where Harry goes on a date. I love that chapter.
Let's say we'll do that as a Valentine's special.
Okay,
We'll plan that out for that.
Um,
That way, no matter how bad your Valentine's Day is, you know it could be worse.
for some babbling beverage says, for the sake of our happiness, please only read the happy Christmas ones.
I mean, I agree with him. I'm like, yeah.
How about
Christmas.
Dumbledore's funeral?
Now we're just like, what can be the saddest chapter
What
we
is
can
the
read? What is the saddest chapter in Harry Potter?
The Prince's Tale. Why don't we read that one? If we want to be depressed. Oh, I'm sorry. That's probably only me that's going to be depressed. Never mind.
I'm gonna say, it's fine with me. Let's do that.
Somebody did suggest the chapter where Voldemort interviews for the job. Do the Voldy Christmas Halloween chapter around Epiphany, around January 6th. Melanie, I can promise you at least this, we will read that chapter sometime in the near future. I promise.
Yeah.
We will read the Voldemort flashback chapter.
I mean, we still got a week till our next live stream, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. And if you guys have more suggestions, by all means, leave a comment and suggest a chapter that you guys want to read. Yeah, the chapter with the I love the Voldemort Dumbledore chapter, where he interviews for the job.
Oh yeah.
I love that chapter. It's so good.
I wish they would have included that in the movie. I would have liked to see
chapters.
Voldemort like halfway in between, looking like Lex Luthor, you know.
Right, like partially
Not quite
transformed.
skeletal, but you know, super villainish.
Yeah, anything for Felix Felicis.
That might be a Christmas Day story. That's just a feel-good chapter.
I've just got a really good feeling about going to Hagrid's. It's the place to be right now. What? What, Harry? That's book 6 is so good. Half the chapters we've mentioned are all from book 6.
Yeah.
There's so many good ones in there. The interview is good. The House of Gaunt is so good. I love that chapter so much. That chapter is book 6 to me. The one where you meet Hepzibah Smith and her tired, very sad, very old house elf. Pokey or Hokey or whatever its name is. Yeah, Melanie's literally just talking about it. The old woman with the Hogwarts cup. Hepzibah Smith. That's a good one. And she's just
maybe I should just
hot
pass
for
the ball
Tom
to your
Riddle.
court, and you can do the next video and just rank the best like chapter in each of the Harry Potter books.
That's so hard. Maybe not. Best chapter in Philosopher's Stone is chapter 8. The Potions Master. Best chapter in book 1. Hands down.
Never mind, you can't do it.
Why?
This is just gonna be where the Snape's chapter best. Snape.
Nuh-uh!
Snape.
Nuh-uh!
Why is this chapter better than this one? Because this one has Snape. Why is this chapter better than this one? Because this has more Snape.
My favorite chapter in 7 doesn't have Snape in it at all.
Because he's dead.
So? Because he's dead. Best chapter in book 6? I actually don't know what the best chapter in book 6 is. I really like the House of Gaunt. A lot.
But it doesn't have Snape.
Doesn't have Snape. But the cave is really good too. That also does not have Snape.
The Mirror of Eris. Yeah, the Mirror of Eris. That's really good. I kind of like the Man with Two Faces, to be honest.
The last chapter?
Yeah. I think that might be my favorite in book 1.
I love the line. What is it? Oh, hang on. Oh my god, why won't this chair just move like a normal chair?
I need to get new wheels for it.
It doesn't
I don't know.
move.
The one wheel is like, it doesn't roll.
I love my favorite line is where is it?
Wasn't even Voldemort.
No.
Top 10 chapters per book. Isn't there only like 12 chapters in book 1?
Where is it?
I feel like that might be cheating for a couple of the books. Oh, 17. Really? Wow. I didn't realize there were so many. I thought it was shorter. What are you looking for?
The best line in this whole chapter, and I can't find it.
I don't know.
Where there should have been a back to Quirrell's head, there was a face. It's just so good.
I wonder how many iterations of that.
Where there should have been a back to Quirrell's head.
And that, yeah, like, how did she say that? And then Quirrell turned, and upon the back of his head was a face.
Right, like...
She's just like, no.
Or, in book 7...
Reverse his face was yet another face.
In book 7, where Snape jumps out the window and she says it left a Snape-shaped hole. Like, what?
She watched some Wile E. Coyote before she wrote that chapter.
Yeah, it's very Looney Tunes. I love it. It's so good.
There's 199 chapters in the book total. Oh. Couldn't get that last one in. I wonder if... See,
I'm trying to think of the best chapter in book 4. That's hard.
My mind would have made me split up a chapter, even if it didn't make sense. So
to just have an even 200. I'm trying to think. Best chapter in book 4 is hard. Because there's so many really good ones in book 4.
And yet, so... all the Young Dudes fanfic was pretty much as long as the entire book series.
The Parting of the Ways is really good.
That.
Yeah. That is a good one. I love Voldemort's return, though.
Jackson says he likes the one where Crookshanks showed up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Book 3 is his favorite. Yeah, Dumbledore's speech is really good. But Voldemort's monologue is so good. Love that.
Which one?
The big one.
Oh.
Which one? When he first comes back. He has a lot of shit to say. I really like the egg in the eye. It's not because Snape is in it.
It's because Snape is in it in his nightgown.
Shut up. Oh my
Yeah, a
God.
little candid shot of Snape there.
In his 90s. It's just another moment of, I know Harry did it, and I can't prove it, but I know he's here. But there's nothing I can do about it.
He's right every time.
I know. And he's
But
right.
he can't prove it.
I know, and he's always right. And it's just like the all of the mystery is like right there. But it's not right there. But it's right there. Snape's talking about getting broken into.
What?
His
You did not phrase that correctly. Oh my God.
his storage, his supplies. He's complaining about how someone's breaking into his cupboards.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
And then
How Snape got broken into. Jesus.
um and then Moody is there talking about him being a Death Eater. And Filch, meanwhile, is just off on his Peeves bullshit. Like, just... Yeah, Snape's meltdown at the end of 3 is legendary. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
He just loses it. And then all Dumbledore has to say is just, don't mind him. He has suffered a very great disappointment today. Like, Dumbledore, like, Snape is great, but Dumbledore's reaction to it is equally as great. He's just like, it's fine.
How could you not include that in the movie? Alan Rickman would have been great.
Just losing
if
his
I was
shit.
playing Snape, I would be like, no, you gotta put it in. I don't care if it's just a deleted scene. Let me do this.
Right? You know it would have been great. And yeah, Katie's right. Dumbledore's having a great time. You know Dumbledore is just like enjoying all of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Fudge freaking out because Sirius is gone. Snape losing his mind, and Dumbledore is just like, yeah.
Oh, how did that happen?
That's crazy, Cornelius. Wow. Wow. That's just ridiculous.
How strange.
Very odd. He even says Harry would have had to have been in 2 places at once. Yeah, he does. How could Harry have been in 2 places at once? Come on. Dumbledore is just...
It's not like we can control time here, people.
Yeah, like, come on now. It's not like Harry could go back in time and save him or anything. That's silly.
Or is it?
Yeah, Dumbledore is very clearly just taking the piss.
Yeah.
The entire time.
So yeah, we have a lot of options.
Yeah, we got a lot of...
Next.
There are so many options. So many choices. And even now I'm trying to think of, like, best chapter in book 3. Like, that's really hard for me. Because it all just flows into such a sequential, great narrative that I'm like, I don't know which chapter I'd pick to be, like, my favorite chapter.
I don't know what's my favorite, but I would say either when they find out who Wormtail is, or that chapter.
Where Snape loses his shit?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one. Yeah,
where they go back in time.
Where you get
basically those 2 chapters in sequence. Those 2 right there.
When you find out, the revelation is pretty awesome. The where you find out Sirius is innocent, Wormtail, like the whole revelation is pretty insane.
Mm. I wonder if Rowling's ever gonna put out like a Silmarillion style book for Harry Potter.
Please.
Because we found out, well, I found out that on the wiki and through, he has all the lore on Pottermore and stuff, but you know, she has like all these different goblin rebellions and all these different wars and stuff, and you can learn all about them. And then they're filling in the blank with Hogwarts Legacy. It's like this blank period in the history, but I'm just wondering if she ever gonna just culminate that all into one text.
She's got notebooks and notebooks and notebooks full of just stuff. So
I mean, she waiting for it.
People to stop hating on her? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but it's not gonna happen. So.
I know. I don't really know.
Not getting into that. No,
we don't have to get into that. I got into it a little bit with a coworker the other day.
That's fine. Just don't bring it on the channel.
I'm not bringing it onto the channel. There was talk a long time ago of Hogwarts, a history type book, but it never happened. That would have been cool. Hogwarts, a history?
Yeah, that would.
I would have been all about that. She has a Twitter account. You could ask her.
It's true. That's true.
We could ask her to look at our channel and let me read the books professionally.
Could do that too. Hey, write the history book and let us read it.
Right? Right? But that would
Doesn't
mean
she
getting
only
on
hire?
Twitter.
Doesn't she only hire like people from the UK though? I thought that was like a thing with her. That's why like Robin Williams got turned down for the role of Hagrid.
That was the rule for the films.
Oh, okay. I know she carried that over into like her audiobooks and stuff. Because who is it? Fry.
Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry.
And then Jim Dale did the American readings. He's British.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's only for it was for the movies specifically. I don't know
okay.
if it pertains to like anything else that she does.
I just want to say I forgot about that. I think if Hagrid was cast as anyone else, Robin Williams would have been great.
Robin Williams as Hagrid would have been fucking fantastic. Oh my god! Can you imagine?
I can only imagine like what he would have added to that character.
Oh my god. And how much they would have had to like take out.
It's the one time I think any Harry Potter fan would have watched it and would have been like, that wasn't in the book, but I'm okay with it.
Right. That was yeah. Robin Williams as Hagrid. I can't even. So much ad lib. You'd have like 45 minutes of just stuff that they took out.
Yeah.
That they'd have to, or stuff that they took out because A, it didn't fit, B, it was wildly inappropriate. Like, just.
Or C, all of the above.
Yeah. It would have been good.
On that note, I think I've said everything I have on this chapter. And
I know, we kind of went on a tangent after we discussed the chapter.
Yeah, well, we were just kind of talking about what chapters we'd like to read next, so it
Yeah.
wasn't too much of a tangent.
No. And this chapter was relatively short. There wasn't a whole lot going on. Errol. So I definitely think, leave chapter suggestions in the comments, and we will decide which one we're going to read next for next week. I mean, I'm down to do the Christmas chapter from book 3. I'm down to do the Voldy.
We're leaning towards Christmas chapters, but we're willing to do any of the good ones. So let us know. Maybe do a poll. Yeah. Well, I mean, just leave comments on the video, and then, like, the end of the weekend or something, I'll put up a poll.
Yeah, and you guys can vote for the next chapter that we will read.
But until then, thank you all for joining us, and we hope you have a great night.
Yes. Au revoir, everyone.